stories are being displayed in their own curriculum. So suppose
Okay.
monkey and the crocodile.
Yes, sir.
I have not started it, but let them to. Monkey and the crocodile. Short question is, what
Yes.
does a monkey say to crocodile?
Yes.
Is crocodile a good person, a betrayed person? Monkey is a good person, crocodile is a bad person. So
Yes.
compare and contrast the character between a monkey and a crocodile. Very briefly,
Mhm.
5 lines or 2 lines. Monkey
Yes.
is a noble soul but innocent.
Mm.
That crocodile is also a crooked and
Yes.
a cheater. He wants to cheat. And
Yes.
in this way, the answer will be there. I will tell you later on, just
Okay.
depending upon the psyche of the student. Is it not?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir, for your guidance.
You must always look into the fact that the interest of the children of the elementary students, interest, and
Yes,
you
sir. Yes.
will make them willing suspension of disbelief. They will be attracted towards you. Very fine romantic fabulous story. Sometimes you will tell some example, you will tell, and
Yes.
they will be attracted towards the teacher. The teaching will be very much convenient, pleasurable, and efficient to a teacher. I think
Yes.
that an engineer is becoming a becoming a teacher is always a credit of you. I bless you that you do well in your own basic field, not as a teacher, but a teacher of engineering students. Okay,
Yes, sir.
we'll
Actually,
wait
I'm trying
at
my
least.
best. Yes, sir. I'm trying my best for. Actually, I am not in the position to take the like engineer students because it will take time, too much time. So I have a small
Wait.
kid. So for that, actually, I took primary students or elementary students.
Oh, simultaneously you as a mother and a teacher. You have to
Yes, sir.
take two
Yes, sir.
roles.
Yes.
You are pressurized by the family, by husband, by the child, and pressurized by the duty to the service. So you must have to discharge your duty very magnificently and taking balanced impression of all the two basic elements. Is it not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because of that, actually, I choose the take academic session because I thought that
Yes.
office job is not suitable for me.
If you will proceed on this field of the literature and language in this IGNO,
Yes,
then
sir.
you must consult with me after completion of your post graduation. You will continue your MPhil and PhD in this level, in literary
Yes,
level.
sir.
Why you are interested so much of this literature and language instead of being so much interested to the technical aspects? I think that you are a person that to acquire knowledge in various fields, in the field of family, in the field of teaching, in the field of studentship. Is it not? Very
Um,
good, very good.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is the only thing.
Okay, okay. You are a native of Bhubaneswar or
Sir, my
Cuttack.
in-laws, yes, sir. My in-laws are living at Patia, Bhubaneswar.
Okay, okay. What yeah. What yeah, that kids, that
Yes, sir. Kit,
institution.
yes, nearby Kit school.
Kids,
My
kids.
house is there.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Best
Sir,
of the
you
luck.
are from Cuttack or where?
Myself,
Yes, sir.
myself,
Yes,
Baleswar,
sir.
Baleswar.
Baleshwar.
My
Oh,
homeland is Baleswar. Hometown Baleswar. Okay. Let
yes,
us
sir.
begin. Whether the students are wound up or not. No.
Sir, Chabi just came. We are two
Yes.
students, so it's almost
Okay.
6.
So let us wait at least 5 minutes. That will be sufficient.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
5 minutes.
Definitely.
What?
Good evening, sir.
Very good evening to you. You are. Have you joined the class? Have you attended the class?
Yes, sir. Chubby is a regular student. But
Okay, okay.
she's coming. Yes.
Why you are considering yourself irregular? You should be regular also. Okay.
No, sir. I didn't consider myself irregular.
You always consider in your mind that I am regular. Chabi not asking any question to me on the topic, on the blocks that I have already told, and tomorrow is your final block, eighth block. Is it not? Seventh
Yes, sir.
B,
Tomorrow is
eighth
our
block.
last class.
Tomorrow's block is about drama, Australian play.
Sir, now I think you can continue the class.
Can we continue now?
Sir, now we have three students. If you wish, then we can continue, sir.
Can I continue or I will wait?
Sir, I think
Let us
it's a sir.
let us start it. Perhaps is it not? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
Hello. Very good evening to everyone. The
Good evening,
topic
sir.
that
Good evening,
is
sir.
okay. The topic oriented for this particular text is the Australian contemporary novel that David Malouf, the Remembering Babylon. Australian novel today covers three dimensions: Anglo writing, immigrant writings, indigenous writings. It moves away from its traditional trend like love, romance, regionalism, and episodic aspect of towards the land of diversity. That means the traditional novels of Australia was about different types of aspects, taking the base of romance, love, regionalism, and other kinds of social aspect uh, with an episodic manner, in a story manner. But that comes in the contemporary study, it goes towards diversity, not an episodic. The story of the novel does not matter, but the novelist's concern is present socio-political economic crisis, which is a diversified manner. So the target of the novelist is to manage manage the different aspect of the society, not as an episodic manner, a story manner, but diversified aspects are chronologized in a single way. The story is not important, not primary. The primary aspect of the novelist is to display different social aspects that he desires himself to impregnate in the theme of the novel. All the above constituents are synchronized by novelist displaying his or her artistic craftsmanship. It attempts or enrich or express Australian history with a view to establish author's purpose. The incident or situations selected by the novelist or elected by the novelist becomes the base metal of the novel. The characters, the plot, and the subplots go around the basic theme. The theme is not important, but different or diversified things which the suppose David Mallof wants to discuss the multiculturalism or that transculturalism or any other chutneyfied culture. So his target, his base metal is that. So he takes a historical incident from Australia about the Aborigines or the natives or about the immigrants and started writing his novel. So Babylon is an imaginary cultural landscape, like William Blake's literary landscape or Thomas Hardy's imaginary landscape that is Wessex. Wessex is not a particular geographical region, but it is an imaginary homeland. Suppose, suppose you come to Christian culture, you go to America. So American culture is salad bowl. So you must have to adjust on the soil of American culture, and you become a multicultural people. What is it? Transculture. Transculture means one culture is transferred to another culture. One culture is transferred to another culture. So, what culture? Suppose you come to Hinduism and another is Christianity. And all these two cultures are chutneyfied, are reshuffled. That culture becomes also multicultural. That imaginary homeland means one person from one culture transfers and adjusts and compromises with another culture, that is transculture. So this David Bellow is supposed to be a novelist of the 20th century with transculturalism. Then you come to the significance of the modern Australian novel and a general study. That may be one question, and with reference to Mallof's Remembering Babylon. The contemporary fiction today from starts from 1970, 1970, 1970, and it extends its region till date. These are realistic novels written by Henry Lawson, Joseph Murphy, and Barbara Benton, and like D.H. Lawrence. I have already told you that D.H. Lawrence is an English novelist who has written Lady Chatterley Lover, Sons and Lovers, and Three Women in Love. These three very epoch-making English novel in the soil of Britain. So Lawrence was very powerful writer, and he was imprisoned because of the obscene sex pictures are given in his novel, for which he was imprisoned for 12 years. Whenever he came from prison, and the Broadway of that London started also flowing with the voluminous of people, thousands of people, millions of people were paying homage to D.H. Lawrence. That novel, three novels, Lady Chatterley Lover and Women in Love, Sons and Love. These three novels awarded him the world reputation and brought him to the pedestal of the literary forum, and he became a famous novel. This Lawrence gave an impact in the mind of this David Bellum. And only for that, the traditional novelists like Lawson, Patrick White, that Voss, we have already taught is Patrick White of Voss is also very related to particular contemporary Australian novel. You may cite Patrick White while you will write Belloc's novel Remembering Babylon. Remembering Babylon means that is the significance of the title of the novel. I will go to the novel just after discussion of the general consideration. Patrick White's voice deal with the relationship between Australia and Britain, having their own landscape and own people. Other novelists like Peter Carey writes history and prehistorical novels. They deal with the historical incidents and situations, recasting the cultural context. David Melloff's Remembering, especially, was written in 1993, 1993, basing upon a of the settlers, myth of the settlers. So the writer himself was an Australian who migrated to England, and his parents spring down from Britain, and his brothers and sisters in different land. He was a voracious reader and an intellectual. He started his intellectual journey from that Australia and other nations like Britain, America, Indonesia, and who. So he was a multicultural person. His novel that Remembering Babylon is also the multicultural. Babylon, Babylon basing upon the myth of the white settler on the land of Australia. History is just as a fiction, but that take it granted. So historical incident that develop takes the base metal of the novel, that is mere thing. The primary thing is to recast the multiculturalism or transculturalism. So what is multiculturalism? That always you cite, you bring the particular picture of a salad bowl, a different culture, Hindu, Muslim, Jain, Christian, Buddha, Zoroastrian, and also Sikhism. All these are the people belonging to American nation for America is a multicultural land. The immigrants, suppose an Indian, Amitabh Ghosh or any other person, so they are migrating to that and America or Britain, they must have to compromise with that nature, with that culture. Suppose Hinduistic culture, familial culture, family bond, family relation is in Hindu philosophy in our Indian society. But if you once go to the foreign country, that alienation, anxiety, loneliness, also a man without any home, uh, that is a land of no man's land, you will feel yourself because you do not have any brotherly relation, sisterly relation, familial relation, husband wife, reciprocal love, and everything else that has been denied. So the particular Thomas Kenley, Robert Drew, Nicholas, and all these persons of American land, they have a different cultures. So this multiculturalism, transculturalism are become the basic themes of the modern novelist David Bellow. Then the current 40 years produce a lot of women novelists in the soil of Australia who write about women's problem, their radical feminism. They raise their voices only for the rights and the social rights. Aborigines and immigrants are food in Australia. So Australia is a land that where the native peoples from very ancient time they are living, they think to be superior to the immigrants, those who are white settlers come to the soil of Australia. So therefore there is a cultural clash between that natives or the aborigines or the people of immigration. And that massive immigration that I have already told you brought a radical change, a dynamic change in the socio-cultural field. It affects to the also economic aspects. Overall, contemporary novels of Australia has back, back categorized broadly and has been categorized broadly that Aboriginal, immigrant, migrant novels and lateral relation with the respective functions of the culture. So you see that up to this that I have given description, you can connect this answer with that uh, last class of Bose novel, that's Australian writer Patrick White, and you can connect this sense to that. Then come to particular aspects of the thematic aspect of that that remembering Babylon. The novel Remembering Babylon of David Mallow is an epoch-making fiction not in the history of Australia literature but in the history of world literature. That George Joseph David Mallow is the full name of the novelist. George Joseph David Mallow is a transcultural contemporary Australian novelist, poet, short story writer, short fiction writer, that playwright, above all, a librettist. A librettist means he always wants freedom for his writing. Remember Babylon is the seventh novel of Mallow, written in the year 1993, that brought a wide name and fame in the global literary platform. The novel was sold in the literary market like hotcakes for its for its marvelous theme, technique, and structure. The genesis of the novel. Where does the novel come? And we must say it. The genesis of the novel comes from the source of an account by E. Reynolds, that 19th century historian and English scholar, and that James Movie, who lived in the 17 years on the Queensland among Aborigines before returning to his white society. This remembering Babylon is actually a historical novel, but it is a transcultural novel with a purple page of a historical incident. Though the historical incident in the novel is brought into a purple page, and still this novel relates to the cultural aspects of transculturalism and also multiculturalism. So, novel's purpose is to recast the theme, the actual theme, not direct to the attention of the episode. The story of the novel is not important, but the discussion of different cultures with a brief story, with a single story taken from a historical incident is the base matter of the novel. So Jimmy Fairley is a protagonist or the main character of the novel. Jimmy Fairley is the protagonist of the central character of the novel. Jimmy Fairley and is accompanied by a gang of sailors from the land, white land, and they started their journey, but automatically they were recasted. They found he is cast over the broad, broad his shipmates. His shipmates and other persons, they were accompanied by him and live 16 years in the land of Aborigines, and they want to adjust themselves with their culture by transferring their own culture to the culture of the native people. The protagonist can no longer no longer distinguish the homeland, that Jerusalem from Babylon. They always remember their culture. So the novel is written in a flashback technique. Flashback technique. What is flashback? Suppose I have already told you that the main character Jamie also sits in his home, or whether any place that he is found, he always remembers about his native land, native culture, family life, and everything else of his own country. Always he remembers his own culture, and that own culture and the present culture, they clash together, and that also breeds the contempt, that breeds the anxiety, loneliness, and all these characters of the novel. So the particular novel, Remembering Babylon, symbolically means that the characters on the native place also they feel very much alone there, just like no man's land. Though they have a different also friends and the circle of their society, and also so Jamie is living in the family of Scotland. So Jamie is spending his time most of the time with the family members of a Scottish family. Those who have migrated from Scotland, they were living in this particular land. So Babylon is a symbolic is a symbol that represents the multicultural or transcultural land. And then we come to the novel begins with the middle of the last century during colonial period of Australia. The history goes with a radical change during the massive immigration Australia faces. It gives a realistic picture of the harsh life of that farmers on the land. Very small farmers were living on that land. Particularly, their purpose was to live on the farming, and these were coming in contact with the sellers, those who live in among them, and the culture of the very low life, the culture of the high life, the sophisticated life. The characters like Jimmy, they confront each other and brought some sort of anxiety and loneliness. As a result of the novelist himself is also a multicultural man because his mother comes from Britain, his father is an Australian, and his brothers were living in Scotland. And all these three nations are coming together in the novel. So, all the three types of cultures they want to transfer their own culture to make a compromising culture that is the third culture, which is the imaginary homeland, also told by that particular modern critique of Australian literature. So you know that the novel Remembering Babylon reflects the fear, frustration, trials and tribulations, the agony and anxiety. Because in the minds of the white men or white farmers, they were living, and other immigrants, those who were very much ancient native of Australian land. Only for that, there was also a dynamic process, the process of the culture. So culture means that I've already told you it is a big term, and that living condition, social institution, and that comes in contact with the marriage, birth, death, anniversary, celebration, and sacred thread. All the social institution include, and again that culture includes also religion. Religion is also an important factor of the culture. Religion support Christianity, Buddhist philosophy, that Jainism, also that Zoroastrian, and all these characters, Hinduism, Sanatanism, all these are also the religion. All these religions are included in the culture. So culture is a big aspect. So transculture balances very nicely. Transculture is balanced very nicely by this particular David Bell that he himself comes of a white culture, means Christian culture. That Australia is also a big salad bowl. I have already told you America, because most of the Indians now also they are flowing to the land of Australia because in search of a job or search of their settlement, the search of their happiness, the search of the climate, the search of the self, the search of the knowledge. Oh, so this David Mallock born in 1934 in Brisbane, Queensland, Queensland, that in Brisbane. Melof got his education in Australia and shuttles most of the time for a higher education and a study of a different culture to different countries. That becomes the basic structure of Bellow, which he brings himself, compels himself to present in his novel about multiculturalism and transculturalism. So only for that, Bellow is very much interested for presenting this multicultural bowl and or that is the transcultural bound. Transculture, multicultural, these are basic elements of this novel. Like Thomas Hardy, he got a regional novel, he is a regional novelist as well as a novelist of the global culture. That Hadisk element, regionalism. What is Hadisk element? Hadisk is the adjective of Thomas Hardy. Hadisk elements got that regionalism, countryside, sociological imagination, all these are Hadisk elements. What is regionalism? Regionalism, you must understand that you live in the region of Bhubaneswar, suppose Patia, or suppose like that capital city, that is also a capital city, and you want to give the picture of this particular surrounding of your own geography. So that is regionalism. You give the picture of your homeland, your surrounding, your environment, everything else that you want to give it. That is called regionalism. And what is another aspect of Hadisi novel that imaginary homeland. Imaginary homeland. Suppose in your mind that you have been married, you have a child, and you have a husband, your family, or I have a brother, I have a sister, I have a parents, everything else. I am living a very familiar surrounding. Whenever I am taken out of my family, then I feel just like a fish out of water. So I feel my culture is something different from others. So I must have to adjust. So that is adjustment means that is a transformation of the culture from one to another. So this becomes the particular basic element of a person whenever he is migrated from one place to another, or he is migrated to some surrounding or environment to another surrounding. That becomes a multicultural. So let us come to another aspect that pervades Maloff's fiction in general, that remembering Babylon in particular. Also, his multicultural background is outspoken by himself. He tells that my grandparents come from London, Lebanon, that I did not affect myself in this way. My mother was a woman of London, and she never feels herself as a Briton. And my teeth and kins are coming from that England, Australia, and other places. This is the this is the outspoken quality of this particular Belloc, that he himself is a multicultural and a transcultural people. Therefore, his writing is based upon that. The above statement shows Belloc's multicultural life, or a family life, or a social life. Therefore, the novel Remembering Babylon highlights Queensland frontier 1850s white settler society, and gives the picture of a white society in the year 1850. Also, the novel affects also reflects about the anxiety, loneliness of white settlers in Australia, as Aborigines denying to accept the supremacy of the white settlers. When the Aborigines are there from very ancient time, the white settlers are immigrants. They came from other land. They wanted to display their supremacy over them, but the native peoples were not accepting their order, accepting their law, accepting their supremacy. They started to raise their voice. As a result of, there was a class of culture. This is the real picture of remembering Babylon, of Belloc's novel. Belloc's Babylon is compared with William Blake's New Jerusalem, and Alvin. Alvin and Jerusalem are two imaginary lands of William Blake, who is an English poet and a famous poet. And this may be reflected by Belloc himself. Belloc was strongly influenced by Blackian also elements, because he studied William Blake's poetry, and this may be a symbol of imaginary cultural compromise in land, that is their culture. That is the third culture. That is the third culture. Next, you come to another aspect. I will discuss chapter wise in the novel. Then I will give dictation. Mellop also remembers Australian primitive culture, though his characters Jamie, Gemmy, Jamie, was belonging to Whiteland. He crosses the boundary between the white and the black. Overall, the memory of a protagonist and other characters remember a past and reshuffle the present and compares and compromises the third aspect. That is third concept, which has been reflected by the particular film. The novel Remembering Babylon is named by time. Time also highly highlights about the quality of the novel Times as one of the best book of the year was shortlisted for Booker Prize. This novel was shortlisted for Booker Prize. Booker Prize, main Booker Prize, the most prestigious prize of England or Britain. And this also another prestigious literary prize is the Nobel Prize. Nobel Prize for literature. Booker Prize, main Booker Prize, Nobel Prize. So it was shortlisted for Booker Prize, though it did not get. Though Bellof was not awarded this shortlisted prize, that is Booker, and he was awarded several prestigious literary prizes of Australia and abroad also. Then you come to structure of the novel. The novel Remembering Babylon is consisted of five chapters. The first chapter narrates Jamie and other characters arrive on the land where the Aborigines live. The first chapter of the novel discusses about the setting of the novel and how these characters near a seashore where the Aborigines are living and they are casted upon that. So at first they reach, they feel lonely and no man's land there. Out from different cultures, they come in contact with the colonial impression came to their mind. And Jamie and other characters they face big portions of their society. The natives have got some of a headmen, other persons, they are political persons, social persons, some big personalities were in among the natives. So they come in contact with that. They want to compromise with them. Why they have come there, what was their purpose, and why they reached there. Uh, so they discuss it in the first chapter. So first chapter is the beginning of the reshuffling of the culture so that the personality of that colony were very much interested to know about Jimmy and other members of his team. They were trying to compromise each other in the first chapter. In the second chapter, also it begins with lyrical description of Jimmy's discovery by the help of a group of Aboriginal women and children. This is a very basic factor of the novel. In the second chapter, Jimmy, Jamie comes in contact with some Aboriginal women and some white women, a group of children. They were accompanied with this Jamie, the protagonist of the novel, and they also wander from one place to another. They migrate from one region to another in that particular, in among the white settlers. They were in search of knowledge, how the people were living, what was their economic stability, and what are their living condition, how they live familial life, how they live social life, how they live cultural life. All these are the exploration of the knowledge of Jamie. It gives the second chapter picture. Third chapter is describes. So novel is entirely consisted of five chapters, and out of five, the third chapter also describes the developing relationship between Jimmy and the white settlers. The third chapter gives. Do you get any sorts of very beautiful story, just like the monkey and the crocodile, animal and the persons that you study the episodic novel of Thomas Hardy? That is not because it is develops technique of novel writing in Australia, giving the portrait gallery of a pictorial, so cultural condition, multicultural condition, transcultural condition. These were the purpose and the target of the novelist. This third chapter describes the developing relationship between Jimmy and the white settlers. He lives in Malvare's family. Malvare family is a Scottish family. Scottish family means there is a headman of that particular land, and that family's name is Malvare. Malvare come from Scotland. They started inhabiting on the soil of this Australia. So Jamie, who is a protagonist, comes in contact with this particular family. He lives as a paying guest there. He lives and he learns how to teach and how to learn. Also, he serves as a teacher. Jamie's mind is full of fear and uh, agony and other kind of anxieties only because he was an outsider living in an Australian family and he was a white man and Australian are mingled aspect of a culture. Therefore, always Jimmy is with fear and frustration about the future. Fourth chapter is the exploration of the past life of George, an unpopular 19-year school master. The fourth chapter describes about the exploration of the past life of a character George, who is 19 years old, teaching in that particular land. He is a school teacher and schoolmaster. George becomes a teacher in Australia at the outbreak of his coming. He himself was not interested to serve as a teacher, but for struggle for existence compelled him to be a teacher there, and he himself adjusted there. He comes of a poor Scottish family. So the character George comes of a Scottish family. After his education, George visits his cousin in Africa and comes back again. You see that George is a Scottish family member and he comes from Africa. He goes to Africa again and African culture, Scottish culture, that Australian culture, that American culture, all and British culture. How many cultures are there? Different types of cultural sector of people are found, are people of the novel. The people of the novel are supposed to be belonging to different classes. Only for that becomes a multicultural. These different multicultural people, they transform their own culture to adjust in the compromising land. So the entire novel is a transcultural novel overall. Next, you come to the last chapter, that is the fifth chapter. This chapter recasts the picture of Malvore's family. This chapter is a concluding chapter of the novel, recast Malvore's family in Scotland and uh, in Australia. Both of the places, Scotland and Australia, they are settling between two cultures. They are settling between two cultures. Ellen comes from Scotland, minor family, Scotland town, that Glasgow. Glasgow is also central city of Scotland. So Glasgow is now, it has got a very excellent university, that Glasgow University, and that was long before in Britain, and it was undivided Britain long back. Then it comes to Scotland, Ireland, and all these are separated just after they got their independence and their own culture. Uh, that Lachan. Lachan is another character in the story. Lachan is, let me little bit because line has gone out, light has gone out. That this chapter is overall the admixture of a different cultural attitude and is bound by multiculturalism. This is possible by their respective transcultural skill so far. Really develops transculturalism in creating multicultural home, reveals his artistic craftsmanship with the with the catalytic agent of memory by remembering mental landscape and the landscape of culture. Again, Meloff also remembers Australian primitive culture through his characteristic character Jamie. He crosses the boundary between the white and the black. The novel Remembering Babylon is named by also Time as a best and beautiful literary work. Let us come to discuss briefly, then I will give dictation and a question answer form. Let us come to this fact. Okay, light has gone out. Only for that it becomes difficult. I am feeling some sort of hot. So at first you must have to give the brief description of Australian modern novel that I have given while I was teaching. That is also Patrick White's voice. The things that I am now giving you. Write it, my dear. Write some lines. Contemporary Australian fiction with special reference to David Belloc's Remembering Babylon. This is the topic.
Sir, can you please
Australian
repeat the topic name? Contemporary
uh,
Australian?
novel with special reference to David Belloc's uh, Remembering Babylon. This is the context. Remembering Babylon. Write it. Australian novel today covers three aspects: A, B, C, like Anglo writing, immigrant writings, indigenous writing. Australian novel today covers
Three,
three
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 aspects.
dimensions, aspects or dimensions. Anglo writing A, B, immigrant writing, indigenous writing. I will give you understanding later on. Just write it. It moves away from it moves away from its traditional trend. It moves away from its traditional trends like hyphen, love, longing, romance, regionalism, and episodism or episodism to the trend of diversity. To the trend of diversity. It moves away from its traditional trends hyphen. What are the traditional trends? Love, longing, romance, regionalism, and episodism. Episodism means episodic, story type. Just like Thomas Harris' novel was second novel, Sarah, a story type. It does not tell a story, but it tells about the social aspect or cultural aspect or any other economic aspect in the prime motive of the novelist. So, to the trend of diversity, to the trend of diversity. Stop. The story of the novel does not matter. The story of the novel does not matter, but novelist's concern is to present. Novelist's concern is to present socio-political economic crisis.
Sir, can
Present
you please repeat that
socio-political.
again? Sir,
The
the
story
story
of
of
the
what, sir?
novel does not matter, but novelist's concern is to recast recast present socio-economic cultural crisis. Socio-economic cultural crisis in diversified manner. In diversified manner. Stop. All the above constituents,
Excuse me, sir.
the
Sir,
constituents,
sir,
all
socio-economic culture, then what you said, sir?
cultural crisis in diversified manner, in multifaceted manner, diversified manner. All the above all the above constituents are synchronized. All the above constituents are synchronized by the novelist. All the above constituents are synchronized by the novelist novelist, displaying his or her artistic craftsmanship. Displaying his or her artistic craftsmanship. Stop. Another paragraph you write. It attempts to enrich and express. It attempts to enrich and express Australian history, Australian history with a view to
Excuse me, sir. Sir, it
establish.
attempts. Sir,
It
again.
attempts to it attempts to enrich or express Australian history with a view to establishing author's purpose. With a view to establishing author's purpose. It attempts to enrich and express Australian history with a view to establish author's purpose. Stop. The incident or situations, the incident or situations selected by the novelist, the incident and the situations selected by the novelist become base of the novel, become background of the novel or base of the novel, basement of the novel or background of the novel. The characters, plot, and subplots go round the base. The characters, the plot, subplots go round the base. Go round the base. Go round the base. Then write the contemporary another paragraph. The contemporary fiction today from 1970 onwards. From 1970 onwards,
Sir, the contemporary.
the contemporary fiction today from 1970 onwards are realistic novels written by Henry Lawson, written by Henry Lawson, LAWS1, Joseph Forphy, Furphy, Joseph Forphy, and Barbara Benton. You know, and Barbara Benton, like English novelist D.H. Lawrence, like English novelist D.H. Lawrence, D.H. Lawrence. Another paragraph. The traditional novelist like Lawson
Sir,
and
sir, English novelist. What is the name of the novelist?
D.H. Lawrence, the English novelist. D.H. Lawrence, D.H. Lawrence, Lawrence. The traditional novelists like Lawson and Patrick White's Voss and Patrick White's Voss deal with the relationship between Australian and relationship between Australia and Britain having their own landscape and people. Having their own landscape and people. Stop. Another paragraph.
Sir,
Other
please
novelists,
last Australian and Britain.
Australia and Britain, these two countries, having their own landscape and people. These were the subject matter of Patrick White and Benton and other novelists. Next paragraph. Other novelists like Peter Carey, other novelists like Peter Carey, who writes history and who writes historical and prehistorical novel. Who writes Peter Carey writes about prehistorical and historical novels. Stop. They deal with historical incidents and situations. They deal with historical incidents and situations, recasting the cultural context. Recasting the context. Cultural context. Stop. David Malloff's Remembering Babylon. David Malloff. Remembering Babylon, David Malof's Remembering Babylon, bracketed 1993, is based upon myth is based upon myth of the settlers settlers hyphen white and the black white and the black. Stop. History is just a fiction. History is just as a fiction. History is just as a fiction. What they take it granted. What they take it granted means this kind of novelist like Bellow. David Bellow's Remembering Babylon is influenced by Thomas Kenley, Thomas Kenley, Kenelly, Kenley, Robert Drew, Robert Drew, Robert Drew, just wait a little bit, Robert Drew, and Nicholas Hasluk, Nicholas Hasluk, Husluk, Nicholas Hasluk, who are the contemporary writers of
Sir,
Australia today.
sir,
Who
please repeat
are
that lastly.
what sentence you tell me? Tell me where is you are left? You tell.
Sir, Nicholas Haslow. After that, what you told?
Nicholas Hasluck are the contemporary writers of Australia. Are the contemporary writers of Australia. Therefore, therefore, the white writers and the black writers go on confronting each other, go on confronting each other for recasting a respective culture, recasting the importance of a respective culture. Stop. Next paragraph. Then the current 40 years of Australia, 40 years. 40 years means that is about to 1980. The current 40 years, 70, 40 years produce a lot of a lot of women novelists who write about women's radicalism. Stop. Next, Aboriginal and migrant problems. Aboriginal and migrant problems are recasted, in the novels of Australia today. Aboriginal and migrant problems are recasted in the novels of Australia today. Australia today. Urban landscape. Urban landscape. landscape is set against is set against geographical and regional landscape like Thomas Hardy's Wessex novel. Wessex Wessex novel. Overall, the contemporary
Sir,
novels
like
of Australia.
Thomas, what, sir, at the end,
Wes-
regional landscape like Thomas Hardy.
Thomas Hardy's Wessex, Wessex. Wessex. Wessex is an imaginary place, just like Belfast, imaginary place that is Babylon. Wessex novel. Stop it. But listen to me. Wessex is an imaginary homeland of Thomas Hardy. That Hardy's all novels like Mellow of the Castor Beach, that under the greenwood tree, a pair of blue eyes, Jude the Obscure, Mayor of the Castor Bridge. All these are very beautiful novels, and I can tell you that they have not a particular land of Britain or Glasgow or Chicago or any other place, but it is an imaginary homeland. That is Hadis's Wessex novel, just like Belfast novel Babylon. Overall, the contemporary novels of Australia, write it. Overall, the contemporary novels of Australia are categorized broadly, are categorized broadly Aboriginal, immigrant, or migrant with relation to respective culture that we have already discussed earlier. That we have already discussed earlier. Aboriginal, immigrant, or migrant with relation to respective culture that we have already discussed. Hello, this is all about the introduction to
Sir.
the
Yes, sir.
general question, and you add some about Voss introduction. I have already given you Voss, that contemporary
Sir,
novel. That
yesterday's
would
class,
be
you gave the
hello.
introduction to boss. We have to add here,
So
right?
add Voss introduction. That would be sufficient for 2 to 3 pages of a general question, and then you come to the chapterization and introduction of remembering Babylon, the subject matter and chapterization. That is the structure and theme of the novel. We are going to write it. Right. The novel Remembering Babylon, very quickly write. I will discuss it. The novel Remembering Babylon, just shortly write RB, underline it. Remembering Babylon, RB. The novel RB of David Maloff, Malou, Maloff, is an epoch-making fiction. Is an epoch-making fiction, not in the history of Australian literature, not in the history of Australian literature, but a landmark in the world literature, a landmark in the world literature. Stop. George Joseph David Melfo, his full name, George Joseph David Melfo, is a novelist, poet, short fictionist, playwright, WRIG, playwright, Above all, a libetist, love for freedom, a libetist. Stop. Remembering Babylon is his seventh novel. Remembering Babylon is his seventh novel. Written in 1993. 1993. That brought wide name that brought wide name and fame, wide name and fame, wide name and fame in the global literary platform. In the global literary platform. Stop. The novel was sold in the literary market like hotcakes for its marvelous theme, technique, and structure.
Yes, sir, like hot cake then?
For its marvelous theme, technique, and structure. Second paragraph, right? The genesis of the novel. Genesis means the birth of the novel. The genesis of the novel comes from the source of an account, by Reynolds, that the pen used, Reynolds pen, Reynolds, a 19th century historian, a 19th century historian and English seller, and Morley, James Morrill, Moril, who lived 17 years in Queensland, in Queensland. That is a place in also Australia, in Queensland, where Aborigines were living with white settlers, with white settlers. Stop. This RB means remembering Babylon. Underline it. This RB is not actually a historical novel, but it is a transcultural novel. But it is a transcultural novel with a purple page of historical incident. But it is a transcultural novel with purple page of historical incident. Stop. Another paragraph. The character Jimmy Fairley. Jimmy Fairley, a
Sir, with purple base of?
historical incident. Next paragraph. Jimmy Fairley, Jimmyfairley. Jimmy Fairley is the protagonist or the central character of the novel. Central character of the novel. Stop. Jamie was a seaman. Seaman. S-E-A-A. S-E-A. Seaman, not a shipwrecked person. Not a shipwrecked person. Stop. While suffering from fever, they were sailors. They were sailors. While suffering from fever, his team brought him to that land where he spent 16 years. Where he spent 16 years in among aborigines. In among aborigines.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, can you please repeat
Okay.
that line again?
While suffering from fever, he was brought by his team and left him there where he spent 16 years in among the aborigines. Stop. In among the aborigines. He wanted to, he tried his best to adjust there by transforming his own culture. By transforming his own culture.
Sir, he tried to adjust.
There by transforming his own culture. Stop. Another paragraph. The protagonist can no longer distinguish from the natives. From the natives. Stop. Some persons with Jamie were there, living there. Stop. Their homeland, Jerusalem. Their land, Jerusalem, from Babylon. Their land, Jerusalem, from Babylon, is always the picture of their mind. Picture of their mind. They always, they always recast themselves, recast themselves with nostalgic thrust. Nostalgic, Nostalg. Nostalgic thrust means homesick, homesick. They always feel homesick for their own country. Nostalgic thrust in their mind. Thrust in their mind. Stop. Another paragraph. The novel begins in the middle of the last century during colonial period in Australia. In Australia. Stop. It gives a realistic picture of harsh life, harsh life, H-A-R-S-H, harsh life of a small farmers living there. These farmers came from British Isles. That is a place. Came from British Isles. ISLES, British Isles. These small farmers in Australia are like Indian small farmers who suffer economic crisis. Economic crisis if their crops failure. If there is crops failure. If there is crops failure. Whenever crops failure, there is the suffering of economic crisis of the people of India. Okay, right. The novel RB means remembering Babylon. Underline reflects the fear and frustration, trials and tribulations, trials and tribulations, agony and anxiety, and agony and anxiety in the minds of the
Sir, the novel RB reflects the fear and frustration. Then,
fear and frustration, trials and tribulations, trials, TRIL, trials and tribulations, and agony and anxiety in the minds of the white farmers, white farmers, as well as others living there, living there. Stop. Another paragraph. Transcultural balance, transcultural balance is well done, is well done by the novelist Bellow. Transcultural balance is well done in the novel by the author David Bellow. By the author David Bellow. Well balanced. That is his artistic craftsmanship. That is his artistic craftsmanship, which highlights his character. Which highlights his character. Stop. Most important aspect of the novel, most important aspect of the novel is the cultural class. Is cultural class. CLAS is not CLASS. Cultural class. Class. Cultural class of a class. CLAS is of a CLASS. Cultural class of a class. Class of a class. In between white settlers and aborigines. Next paragraph.
sir, in
Born
between
in
white
19
settlers, then
in between the uh, white
white
settlers
settlers.
and natives. Next paragraph. Born in 1934, this Bellow. Born in 1934 in Brisbane, Brisbane. That is a place in Brisbane, comma, Queensland. Queensland. Queensland is a particular place. In Brisbane, Queensland, Mallow got his education, education in Australia and the shuttles S-H-U-T-T-L-E, shuttles means going, go and throw. Shuttles of the shuttles most of the time for his higher education in a different land. For his higher education in different land. Therefore, he came across various cultures, various cultures, and tries to compromise, compromise of his imaginary homeland, of his imaginary homeland. Next paragraph. Like Thomas Hardy, he is not actually a regional novelist, but he imitates Hadisky culture, Hadisky culture, H-A-R-D, capital H, D-I-S-Q-U-E, Hadisky culture, and elements, and elements like countryside and sociological imagination, sociological imagination, sociological imagination. Stop. You listen to me a little bit. What is sociological imagination? Sociology, you know, consists of different aspects of the society, political, economic, social, and all these. Sociological imagination. Also, Belfo imitates the poetic
Sir,
potentiality.
we have to write down this.
Also, Belf, Belf imitates poetic poetic pon- poetic quality that pervades throughout his novel RB, throughout his novel RB. Next paragraph. His multicultural background is outspoken by Beloff himself. His multicultural background is outspoken by Beloff himself. Colon mark right. My grandparents came from Lebanon. He himself also tells. My grandparents came from Lebanon. My mother came from London. And my kith and kins live in England, Australia.
Sir, excuse me. Sir, my mother came from
At
London and my
London, my kith and kins live in England, Australia, South Africa, and Scotland. South Africa and Scotland. Stop. The above statement shows Bellow's multicultural background. The above statement shows Bellow's multicultural background. Stop. Therefore, his novel RB highlights Queensland frontier. Novel RB highlights Queens front frontier. Queens front is also a place. Frontier. Frontier means footland, মানে সীমান্ত, frontier of 1850, 1850 apostrophe লেখো। Settlers, 1850s settlers, sociological picture. Stop. This novel reflects reflects anxiety and alienation that we have discussed earlier. Next paragraph. Bellow's Babylon is compared with William Blake's William Blake's William Blake's New Jerusalem and Alvin, Alvin, capital A, New Jerusalem and Alvin. This may be symbol of imaginary cultural homeland. Cultural homeland.
sir, this may be a symbol of imaginary.
Cultural homeland. Imaginary cultural homeland. Or cultural homeland. Maloff also remembers Australian primitive culture. Australian primitive culture through his character Jemmy, Gemmy, through his character Jemmy.
Sir, can you please repeat the line? Melfor
Maloff,
also remember.
Maloff,
Mel,
Maloff also
Melf
remembers
remember.
Australian primitive culture through his character Jemmy, Gemmy. Stop. He crosses the boundary between white and black. He crosses the boundary between white and black. Overall, the memory of a protagonist, Jamie. Overall, the memory of a protagonist, meaning main character, Jamie, and others remember past and present, past and present, and reshuffle a new imaginary homeland, and reshuffle a new imaginary homeland. Stop. Another, the last stanza, the novel Remembering Babylon, RB, is highlighted by Time, Time. That is a journal, periodical journal, literary journal. Time is one of the best books, is one of the best books of the year, best book of the year, and was shortlisted for England's Booker Prize. England's Booker Prize, capital B double K E R, Booker Prize. That is a prestigious Booker Prize in England, prestigious literary prize. Stop. Though not Booker Prize, he awarded. Though not Booker Prize, he awarded. Still, he was awarded various literary prestigious prize. He was awarded various literary prestigious prize in Australia and abroad. In Australia and abroad. Then the headline you write is structure of the novel. Structure of the novel. Then I will go chapterization and will question. Structure of the novel. The novel RB is consisted of five chapters. Is consisted of five chapters. Five chapters. Stop. First chapter narrates. This is the chapterization. Chapterization. First chapter narrates Jamie and other characters arrive on the land. Arrive on the land. It will be easy for you to write. Jamie and other characters arrive on the land where Aborigines live. Where Aborigines live. Stop. They feel they feel lonely, lonely and no man's land. No man's land of that place. Of that place. No man's land of that place. They cannot cooperate with. They feel cultural differences and color discrimination between Jamie and his team and the primitive people live there. Stop. Jamie faces the big persons of the colony. Jamie faces the big persons. Big persons means personality, like political, social, and other artists. Big persons in the colony. Stop. Mr. Fraser. Fraser is another character of that particular land. Mr. Fraser, F-R-A-Z-E. Fraser and young George are important personalities of the colony where Jamie recasts of his own land and the people from where he comes, for where he comes. Stop. The second chapter, right? Second chapter, chapter 2. Chapter 2 begins with lyrical definition, lyrical description, description of Jamie's discovery, Jamie's discovery of the land by help of a group of Australian women and children and children.
Sir,
Stop.
sir, discovery of the land
By Australian women, those who are those who are aboriginal. Aboriginal. Next, Jamie tries to learn their language and custom. Jamie tries to learn their language and custom of the land, avoiding of his own. Avoiding of his own. Stop. Jamie is
sir, avoiding of his.
convinced of his own OWN. Own. Stop. Jamie is convinced that he will return to his own country. He will return to his own country one day. One day. Therefore, he must compromise with the native of the land for the present. Native of the land for the present. Stuff. But always he remembers his own land and culture. But always he remembers his own land and culture in a flashback technique. In a flashback technique. Flashback
Sir,
technique
but
means
always he
remembers his land and the people in a flashback technique. In a flashback technique. Chapter 3, right? Chapter 3. The third chapter describes the developing relationship. Describes the developing relationship between Jimmy and white settlers. Jimmy and white settlers. Stop. He lives in Melver's family, Melver apostrophe. He lives in Melver's family. He lives with Melver's family because of Mr. Melver's wife compassion. Mr. Melver's wife compassion. Compassion. Mr. Melver's wife's compassion. Stop.
Sir,
He
can you please
learns
repeat
and
that line? He lives with Melbourne's house.
Melver's family because of Mr. Melver's compassion. Mr. Melville's compassion. Stop. He learns and teaches. He learns and teaches whatever the circumstances require. Whatever the circumstances require. Stop. He shares with them. He shares with them with full-throated knowledge. With full-throated knowledge. Chapter 5. Chapter 5. This is the concluding chapter. Now chapter 4. Chapter 4. I have already given third chapter. Chapter 4. This chapter is the exploration of the past life. This chapter is the exploration of the past life of George, comma, an unpopular 19-year schoolmaster. This chapter is the exploration of past life of George, an unpopular 19 years schoolmaster. Schoolmaster. George becomes a teacher in Australia who comes from a poor Scottish family. Who comes from a poor Scottish family. Scottish Scottish family. Stop. After his education, George visits his cousin, cousin in Africa and again comes back. The character Jamie and George are different, but the adjustment of culture of both are same. Are same. Chapter 5. This is the last chapter
Sir,
of the novel.
can you please repeat the last line? The chapter Jamie and George
Are different persons.
are different persons, but the adjustment of
Culture, adjustment of their culture seems to be same. Seems to be same. Stop. Chapter 5. This is the concluding chapter of the novel. Then we will move to the question. Very short time, write it. This chapter recasts. Fifth chapter. This is the final chapter. This chapter recasts the picture of a family, Melbourne family in Scotland. In Scotland. The character Ellen, Ellen comes from comes from Scottish mining town. Comes from mining town. Scottish mining town near Glasgow. Near Glasgow. This is a character coming from Scottish mining town situated near Glasgow. Glasgow is a city in Scotland. Lacan, Lachn. Lacan is another character Who is touchy? Touchy. 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 Touch to touchy is the adjective. Touchy and arrogant. Stop. Janet is another character. Janet, Jenet. Janet is another character who is highly sensitive and sensuous. Sensitive and sensuous in her attitude. In her attitude. Stop another paragraph. Finishing touch.
Sir, sensitive and
Sensuous. Sensuous. Sensitive means whatever I tell, you feel it. Sensuous means anything you come in contact with, always feel and think. These are sensitive and sensuous. Next paragraph, final touch. This chapter is overall the admixture of different cultural attitude. The admixture of different cultural attitude, and is brought to the land of multicultural and is brought to the land of multiculturalism. This is possible by their respective transcultural skill. This is possible for their respective transcultural skill. So far, stop, stop. Really develops transculturalism. Transculturalism, creativity, infusing creativity, fusing in the novel, fusing in the novel, reveal his great art, great art. Stop. It is by memory. It is by memory. Recasting a new cultural landscape. A new cultural landscape. Stop. This is the finishing touch. Write the question answer. Questions. At the beginning, I have told about the introduction to the general question you will attempt, and you will also add some answers from those. And number second point is about the structure of the novel, chapterization. I have already dictated. And the final touch is the question of remembering Babylon. Questions, very important questions. 1 to 2 questions you will get ready. That will be sufficient for you. Number one, give a brief general question. Give a brief description of development of a contemporary Australian novel. Contemporary Australian novel. This is the general question. Both Bose and these are equal, I think. Patrick White and also David Bellon. Give a brief description of development of contemporary Australian novel. This is the technique and theme. You must write it. I will answer it. Number two, point out the characteristic feature characteristic feature of David Balfour's novel, characteristic features of David Balfour's novel with special reference to remembering Babylon, with special reference to remembering Babylon. Stop. Number three, discuss RB as a transcultural novel. As a transcultural novel. Stop. Or question, the alternative, or of the same. How does Balfour discuss and debate multiculturalism and transculturalism fused in the novel RB? Fused, F-U-S-E-D, fused in the novel RB.
Sir, sir,
Stop.
multiculturalism and
Transculturalism fused in the novel RB. Number four, critically analyze the chapterization of the novel RB. Critically analyze the chapterization of the novel RB. Chapterization I have already dictated. You will prepare the question, all questions, but I have given the answer. Number five, write a note on the structure of novel RB. Write a note on the structure of the novel RB. The answer tips that I am giving: style. Write a note on the structure of the novel RB. Answer tips: style, diction, language, metonymy, metaphor, epiphany, symbol, image. All these are technique. Style text includes Style includes diction, language, metaphor, metonymy, metony, metonymy, symbol, and image. This is the answer tips. Number six, comment on the major themes of the
sir, last question.
major
Comment on the major.
major theme of Bellow's novel. Bellow's novel. Major themes, Bellow's novel. Tips that I am telling. Answer: multiculturalism, transculturalism, alienation and anxiety, compromising nature of a culture, third culture, hyphenated culture, just hyphen is a verb. Hyphenated culture means two cultures confront each other. Hyphenated culture, imaginary homeland. These are the ingredients in the answer of a comment on the major themes of the novel Balfour. Seventh question is last. Justify the significance of the title of the novel. This is very important question. Justify the significance of the title of the novel. Significance of the title of the novel. I am just giving this discussion, my dear. This is the last discussion of this. Time is going to be over. Significance means you must write very abruptly. Each and every person, place, or any other things, it must have some caption or title, and it must carry some sort of relating significance. Here, Balfour's novel, Remembering Babylon, is highly symbolic, which carries the image, metaphor, metonymy, and different kinds of technique and poetic craftsmanship. The novel itself, Remembering Babylon, Babylon is an imaginary place. Remembering means the memory works in a flashback technique. How to recollect the past culture, the primitive culture, the own culture, the culture he from also conference. These are the technique which has been impregnated by Balfour's novel Remembering Babylon. So Babylon is in an imaginary place like a Blackian place, Hades, Osek, all these are. That is a symbol. That is a symbol. That is also an image. The symbol of a compromising led. When two cultures are confronted each other, a person has to survive. Either he must compromise or deprecate, or appreciate or deprecate, whatever it may be. But there is the compromise of the culture that is the imaginary homeland third culture. Third culture, which has been immigrants, expatriates, and migrants are facing in large number in different places of America. So America's citizenship of the immigrants uh, it is passed by the political turmoil, and so the compromising of the third land that you can study it. If Salman Rushdie is a famous novelist who is living in America. He is an Indian, Anglo-Indian novelist, and most of the, Amitabh Ghosh, and also Vikram Seth. All these are famous novelists. They are living on the land of America, Australia, and other places. Their writings are multicultural and transcultural. Thank you, my dear student. It is about all. You ask anything that you want. Tell, tell me.
Hello, sir. Sir,
Hello.
I want to ask that a previous question here. It is one thing written that critically examine remembering Babylon as a masterpiece of narrative skill. That is similar to your question, sir.
Yes, 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 yes.
Here,
Narrative skill.
yes, yes,
Simply,
sir.
you will add some points. Narrative skill means the style of narration. Style of narration. Beginning, chapterization, conclusion, the characterization, and different symbols, images. These are taken into account. That narrative
Yes,
skill of a Bellof is very excellent and tremendous because the narration just we tell a story about once there was a king who was very lovable. He loved his daughter. In this way, this is a narrative skill. The narration relates to different aspects, the narration of the nativity, narration of the aborigines, narration of the confrontation of the culture. All these are in an artistic skill that has been narrated. That I have already told. Your answer is with my dictation. Tell another question.
yes, sir.
Narrative
Sir,
skills.
another question. No, sir,
Yes,
another question is that remembering Babylon presents the theme of exile and alienation. Discuss.
flight. Flight means very much flight in Odia. Durdosha, Durdosha, torture and tormentation. Alienation means loneliness. The inhabitants neither feel the homely nor the aborigines nor the immigrants. Nobody feels very homely, very familiar to their own survival. But everyone feels loneliness. Jamie feeling fear and other kinds of anxiety. The character's teacher, that is George, is feeling alienated because he was coming from other land. Calvin is also coming from Scotland, and some people are coming from South Africa, African, from Scotland, from Britain, from England. All these people they are reshuffled each other. So they come to different land and they feel not homely, not cozy, not friendly, but always feel lonely and alienated. Can you understand me? Hello, hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, there is
Yes,
one
sir.
thing I want to ask you. Another question is there. It is in also
Ask.
in previous question. I think year 2020 December.
20.
Discuss the
Ask.
place of yes sir. Discuss the place of David Meloff in contemporary Australian fiction.
David Meloff is really a different novelist of contemporary Australian novel. Novelists. In among them, Australian novelists like Patrick White, you have already you have been
Yes
taught
sir. In
both.
both. Yes.
They have a cultural conflict, but transculturalism, another factor which is a new one in the dimension of the novel of Bellows, so this is remembering Babylon. The technique of Patrick and Judith Wright and other Peter Carey, these are the three. You will always pronounce these three persons of Australian soil. Well, you write any other question, answer. So all these, they are traditional novelists. They follow some sort of a story. They follow the technique, the abrupt beginning and the end life. But David Bellow is something different. His point of view is only transculturalism and multiculturalism. But theme is not primary. But technique is secondary here. So Malloff's technique is different from Patrick and Peter Carey. Since Malloff adds a new dimension of multiculturalism to that transculturalism. Means this is other novelists like Peter Carey and uh, Patrick, they do not have an imaginary homeland, compromising land, third culture. All these are new techniques of David Fellow. Hello, goodbye,
Yes
perhaps,
sir.
my dear to all. Are you
Sir,
satisfied or not?
sir,
Are
I
you
have one
satisfied with
last
it?
question. Sir,
Ask,
can I
ask,
ask
ask.
last question? Yes, sir. Here it is one question is there that discuss the multiple themes that you said here the multiple themes. There's chapter wise there is so many characters. So in multiple
Multi,
theme that means we yes sir.
multiple themes means interculture,
Yes
intraculture,
yes
also interculture, intraculture, and also transculture. These are the themes. They are presented through different characters. Suppose George, 19 years schoolmaster, a young man who is adjusting with much more difficulty in among the natives. And another culture is Calvin. Calvin's character is coming from Scotland. They have another theme of the familial life. She always wants to give compassion and love to the guests and any other paying guests. That is also another theme. This is theme of culture, theme of multicultural, theme of transculture, theme of love.
yes
But there is not even if a single trace of romance, loving each
yes
other with romantic, with displaying the sexual potentiality. But simply, if it is overall universal culturalism. Thanks to you and okay. Goodbye. Goodbye to all. Hello. Next class
yes.
will be studying uh,
Last block.
tomorrow. Last block that is the Australian contemporary drama. Australian contemporary drama that is
Okay, sir.
removalist. Removalist. I
Okay,
am
sir.
giving an introduction to that. Removalist means remove. Remove is a word. Removal adjective. Removalist that is noun. Means removalist both adjective and noun because the persons those who remove other is removed. Those who are removed by others, they are removalists. How one culture is removed, another culture, how natives are trying to display legacy, display supremacy over others, and how the immigrants are trying themselves to remove them and they try to remove themselves. This culture is represented in the Australian drama. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good night,
Okay.
sir.
Good night.